I am pleased to announce that this episode marks the beginning of year number 5 of Liner Notes. I want to thank each of you who have supported this endeavor, both by listening to it and supporting it financially. A special thanks to David Gould at Van Doren and Eric Jones at Arlen's Good Beer for your support. Also, a huge thank you to Charlie Carr for your detailed and accurate transcriptions, and to Marco Mendoza for your editing skills and amazing ability to salvage my technologically challenged recordings. Of course, not one of these episodes would have taken place without the incredible jazz musicians who have given of their time in order to share their music and personal lives with this audience. Thank you. On to the episode. Welcome to Liner Notes. My name is David Bixler. Heads up that due to COVID-19, this interview is recorded remotely. It might not be the same quality as if recorded in a studio. Season 5 begins with saxophonist Abraham Burton. During the pandemic, photographer and engineer Jimmy Katz produced an informal concert series at the site of the historically significant Seneca Village in Central Park. One of the concerts that Katz recorded was a trio performance featuring Burton, drummer Eric McPherson, and bassist Dezron Douglas. This energetic performance is available as the Summit Rock session at Seneca Village. Abraham Burton, good morning, and we are here to celebrate your new recording, the Summit Rock session at Seneca Village, with your trio with Eric McPherson and bassist Dezron Douglas. So welcome. The music sounds fantastic, and I want to jump in with the just reading about the process of what happened. We all lived through what I have come to call the trifecta of 2020, which
Yeah,
was, COVID, the political craziness, and George Floyd, and all that happened there. So
that's right.
this was recorded at Seneca Village, or the site of Seneca Village, which has historical importance. And so maybe speak to a little bit about your process and, about how this recording came about.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's appreciated, man. But yeah, I mean, like you said, this was obviously a very impacting period for everyone, and some obviously very traumatic or difficult ways. And quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, I've talked to some people and they actually embraced it because it gave them a minute to kind of take a break from what their lives have become over the years. Everything is moving so fast, a lot, with the computers and everything, and people are running around so much trying to make ends meet and things of that nature. I've talked to a lot of people that actually were affected in almost a positive way, just kind of like getting a break and getting a chance to reflect on their lives. And I think it kind of had that kind of impact on me personally. I got a chance to slow down because, like everyone else, I'm running quite a bit from job to job, running overseas or even teaching, which I love very much, but it's demanding on many levels. And then of course, kids and family and all of that, trying to balance everything. Just being home kind of gave me a second to just sit back a little bit and reflect and take a breather. And so, with this how this whole thing came about, we, like every other musician, we hadn't played in so long. It was such a different period, man. I've been doing this for 30 plus years, and there had never, in my recollection, there's never been a period where I just didn't play with other, and especially like with other people. I think that's what I mean. Of course, you pick up your instrument and you practice or whatever, but for me, that's we learned this music by being with people and communication and playing and vibing. And when I was growing up, that's how we all learned. Like, we used to get together, all kind of musicians, like Mark Carey and Eric McPherson, myself, Roy Hargrove, all cat, Taurus Mateen, lot of great musicians. We used to always just get together in our street weights and we would play. And a lot of the times that's how we developed, as musicians that way. So for the first time, we weren't really doing that, like guys weren't really playing much at all. And so that was pretty impacting. And I think that when I got the call from my dear friend, Mr. Jimmy Katz, and he had this idea. He's doing some things outdoors, presented a more safe environment. And we jumped on it. We were like, yeah, let's play. We just wanted to play, because we were
I
like,
hear
yeah,
that, man.
yeah, man. So, I just called Eric McPherson and Dezron and asked him, hey, man, look, there's this possibility to do this and we could just get together, man. And I mean, everyone was just like, yes, immediately, So
Had you played with other people since the shutdown, or was this the first time?
this is what I'm trying to, convey. I have never gone through a period like this in my life. And I've been playing over 30 plus years professionally. It was very foreign to me, to even just, I can remember even when we were, I used to practice, it was always in kind of like group settings, it was like, yeah, you practice here or whatever, but then you go and play because that's where you really gauge what you're working on. That's where you get, you're sparring. Because if you're, you can shadow box all you want, and you be the champion of the world shadow boxing. You know what I mean? Well, I mean, think about it. That's why
Sure.
boxers hire sparring partners, because you get to gauge the stuff you're working out. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not as quick as I thought I was, or or that move doesn't really work when someone is reacting.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's the same concept, and I've always learned in that capacity, under those conditions with other people hitting and practicing. I'm not really one of those people you lock yourself up in just the practice room. The practice room is good and it's necessary, but you got to get with other people, to play. So that to me was like, wow, what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years of,
just isolation.
Yeah.
Let me ask you then, like, so no one knows you're playing like you do. So when you
Okay.
listen to this recording, does it feel natural? Do you like it? Because I got to say, as a listener, the sound, the vibe, and the energy of the whole group, but especially like your sound, is like in your face. I mean, it's screaming. It's that sense of you're enjoying doing what you're doing. But as far as like like if you've been a year without interacting, without conversation, did that feel foreign to you, and did that take a minute to get together?
I'm going to be totally honest here. Yeah, I felt it. We were laughing about it because we were like, man, it's like rusty. It's like the rust. We had to shave off the rust. Polish it off. I felt it. But it's interesting that you say that, because to be honest with you, even with the rust, I didn't even care, because I was so happy to be, and I felt very fortunate, just to be able to be hitting again, man. So for me, it was, even though the rust was there, we were kind of joking along with it, like, oh yeah, we lost the time there or whatever, and it's like, well, let's keep it going, make it a part of what it is, because that's what it was.
Right. And I think that goes about like, like the little mistakes, the things that would maybe drive you nuts, or that you would, fret about, post-pandemic, or like during the pandemic, you're realizing that just doesn't matter. Like, we're here, I'm here with my friends, we're having a conversation, this is real. And
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But I'll be honest with you too, man. I think of music like that in general. That's something, a part of music to me that makes it all the more genuine. I don't need it to be perfect. I don't need even when I teach and I tell my students, yeah, man, sure, we want to get to the point where we're playing the right notes or whatever, sure, of course. but probably more importantly is the intent, the vibe, the energy, what we're trying to get to, because that's how I was taught, when I
Right.
was growing up, the people that I was extremely fortunate to be around,
Right.
the musicians that I grew up around, I mean, they were master musicians, It wasn't really so, focused on that being the content. This is like what it's about. They were about what music is about.
Right. Right.
You have to learn about what is music. It's not so technical, even though the technicality aspect of it is very important, obviously. I think sometimes even today it's unbalanced. I think we have some unbelievably technical people that, I mean, are amazing. I mean, forget it, but sometimes I wonder, I'm like, yeah, but there's another side to the music that sometimes I feel a void, perhaps is the right word, like maybe a little void. It's almost like they've supplemented just one side, and they're paying attention to one side and they're not really balancing it.
Right. Just jumping in there. So what you were alluding to is that you worked with Jackie McLean at Hart, from what I gather, and now you're actually teaching there, which, like, that's some pretty big shoes to fill. Just like making a survey of jazz education. Jackie there was one of the first actual, like, cats that was teaching. Maybe talk about how that, affected you as you teach. And I also, this is kind of a, two-part question. When you talk about the part that is missing, all right? I think for myself and for many other jazz musicians, educators, what has happened, kind of like the racial reckoning. You have to be a fool not to realize that it was happening in the last couple of years. How has that affected your teaching? Because, it seems to me that the part of jazz that can be put inside of a syllabus is, that's easy. So how are you conveying to your students, okay, this is what it was like hanging out with J Mac, and these are the stories he was telling about, growing up in New York City.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's not even. I don't see them separate because it's pretty easy for me to convey what it is. Those types of ways of looking at music, because it's what I know. It's what I was taught. It was what I was around. I was again, I was really fortunate to be around people like Freddie Waits or Max Roach, of course, Arthur Taylor and Roy Haynes, and these great musicians. I was fortunate to be around drummers. Spending time around them, and some of my greatest lessons were from those people. And a lot of times, like for an example, I can tell you, I can remember once Billy Higgins was a very I mean, he was so giving. He's such a giving musician. And anytime he would come into town, I mean, we were kids. We were lucky. We lived in Greenwich. I grew up in Greenwich Village,
Wow.
in Manhattan. So, I mean, that's how we really got into the music, because we were roadieing for like Richard Davis, his band and bands that came through. We were the neighborhood kids. And I can remember once, just to give you an example, Billy Higgins gave me a great lesson once. We were talking, whenever he would come into town, we would try to meet up with him. And because Eric McPherson's mother was actually very close with Billy Higgins, and we all grew up together. So, we would always try to hang out with him whenever he was in town, and he was always so welcoming, and, and he would give us tips. And so I remember once I had learned this Dexter solo, and I was like, yeah, I was going to let him know and, talk to him about it or whatever. So, and I told him about it, and he was like, man, that's great. He said, that's great. He said, and then he says to me, like, how did you do it? How did you do it? And I told him, I said, man, well, I knew the solo and picked it out and played. And he said, that's great, man. That's good, man. That's good. He says, well, what else did you do? And I was like, well, I learned the solo, he was like, and he was like, okay. He said, well, that's a good start, and I was like, oh, well, what do you mean? And he says, well, when you're transcribing is a lot more than just the notes of the solo. I was like, okay. And he's like, when you transcribe, he says, when you're listening to something, you want to listen to everything that's happening. You want to listen to the rhythm section. You want to listen to what he played and how they responded. Why did he play that at that particular time? Placement, community. He's talking about the full spectrum and scope of, it takes you away. It takes the thought process away from it being just you and the notes. And it's like you're starting to open up and listen to what music, like musically speaking, how does this thing work? You understand what I mean? And I think that might have been one of my first introduction to thinking that way. And then after that, Arthur Taylor definitely, he whooped me into shape in terms of, this isn't about you. This isn't your thing. This is about music, and music is a greater thing, and you have to learn what music is about. I think that's the thing I see most with students. They're great and they even know a lot of things, but I feel like sometimes that part of the puzzle is missing, where it's like, what music is. Just what is music? What is it about? Like, how does it work? What are the different components of music? What is the breakdown? Just to be musical, musicality, musicianship, all of these things are really, really important things. And I think these are the things that I try to impart on my students. It's one of the first things we address. Of course, we address all the other things as well, but totally in conjunction with, that aspect of the music, because I think it's imperative. I mean, how can you be a musical cat if you don't have that full, well-rounded view or perspective of even what music is, you know what I mean?
Right. Do you find that the young people you encounter teaching, are they open to this? Do they
Oh
understand what you're talking
man,
about?
they love it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to
Man,
hear.
they're
Yeah.
like,
All
what?
right.
Nobody talks about this. A lot of them, they get sheets and patterns. This is the pattern you play on this chord. I wasn't taught that way,
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, all the guys I've ever been, including Jack McLean, never sat down. We never sat down and he was like, okay, Abe, so the 2-5-1 is, that's not what lessons were like at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
At all.
I'm sure of that, man. Wow.
But I don't mind it. I'm glad. I had to, it's funny because those things, people like Jimmy Heath, I mean, the list can really go on, man. Again, I was really so very fortunate to be around Elvin Jones was very instrumental in helping me figure out things, musically, a lot of people, McCoy Tyner was too. It's like what your perspective is very important, in getting to this music and having an intent, having an intent. Like, what are you aiming at? What is your goal? What is your design? That's what Max Roach used to always say, man, watch your design. They used to drop
That's heavy.
heavy.
That's
Yeah, they drop
really
heavy
heavy.
stuff on you. They drop stuff on you and you're kind of like, huh? You don't even know. But it's great. And they don't explain it either. They just plant the seed and walk away.
Yeah.
And then you're like, man, what did he mean by that? You spend the next 4 months trying to you're thinking about one line this guy said. You know what I mean?
What's your design? I'm going to chew on that for the rest of the day.
That was Max's stuff, man. Watch your design, man. Look at your design, Watch what you're doing. Whoa, okay, damn. Excuse me, but
Very cool, man. So I also wanted to ask you, I said earlier on this recording, the tenor sound is so strong. You told me, though, that at heart, you're an alto player. That was your first instrument. Why don't you tell us about the transition? Do you still play alto at all? Or?
Oh man, alto is here. Oh, I still hear alto, man.
Really?
Yes, of course. I didn't drop the alto. Everyone is always like, man, why'd you drop the alto? I didn't drop the alto. What had happened really was, Louis Hayes called me for the gig, back in like 97 or something, and his book was in B flat.
Okay.
So I was like, man, I've always wanted to try the tenor. So this would be a great opportunity to try the tenor. It was great because I learned how to play it really fast with someone like Louis Hayes behind you.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what I used to do in the beginning was I used to play the melodies on tenor, but then I would bring my alto and solo on alto.
Okay.
That's what I used to do because I didn't really have a tenor sound, but I had a really, I like my alto and I like my alto sound. I feel very confident with it, And I remember Louis Hayes told me we were on tour somewhere and he said to me, when are you going to leave that crutch, is how he put it. When are you going to leave that crutch at home? And I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, you'll never learn to play that tenor. The big horn is what he called it. You never learn to play the big horn unless you leave that crutch at home. And I was like, okay. And then it was rough because I didn't have a sound on tenor.
Yeah.
And people are always, it's funny, a lot of guys, I remember a young man who is actually a very great. I like his playing very much. A young man, and I remember one day he said to me, I was playing a gig, and when I got off the bandstand, he said to me, he said, "Man, why do you play so hard?" That's what he said. Why do you play so hard? And really quickly in my mind, a lot of things just passed through my mind, and I realized, I was like, the difference between the generations can mean, the difference between a lot of different things. And he wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand unless he was there. When I was growing up, I mean, guys played hard, and it's not to say loud or anything. It's just, they played with a different kind of presence, so
Sure.
to speak.
Yeah.
Today they play with a different presence, and I love the way Cats play today. I think it's fantastic, and it's cool. It's totally cool. I like it. But I do hear the difference.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get the guys I used to play around, guys like Jesse Davis, you go to hear Jesse play, or Vincent Herring,
Yeah.
you can hear Vincent like 12 miles, away, but that's just how we were playing. But that's what was happening,
Yeah.
Sonny Rollins was playing, back then, that's who I was watching. I was seeing guys like Sonny Rollins play. I mean, that was like unreal. You want to talk about sound? It's like Ricky Ford, I used to go, or John Gilmore, or Bob Berg. I mean, I used to see these guys playing. I would stand outside and just be like, man, I got to blow this horn. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just what we grew up hearing,
Yeah.
But and it's cool. I mean, I understood that he probably, it's one thing to maybe hear it on record, but it's a whole nother thing when you're there and you would absorb that type of energy, and you'd be like, wow, okay, I got to match this to some degree. You got to match what's going on.
Sure. I mean, and I think that urgency was reflective of the time, also.
Yeah,
we're
sure,
in
absolutely.
a different era now, man.
Yeah, and it's a different time, and it's totally cool. I love listening to a lot of Cats. I listen to Cats, and I'm like, yeah, but I that doesn't mean that I want to play like that.
Yeah.
I hear what I hear, and that's the beauty of the music. You know what I mean? The individuality. That's what we want. We want diversity.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. So, jumping back to the music on the recording, it was hard to get information, on this. Obviously the Tad Dameron, If You Could See Me Now. But tell me
Oh,
about the other tunes. Are they originals by you? Actually, I did read that one of them is a Renee McLean tune. I can't remember which one it was.
yes. One of Renee's tunes, Dance Little Mandisa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the waltz. Yeah, that's a cool tune. The other ones though, are they your originals or
My
Eric's?
brother,
Or...
you know what? I'm trying to remember which tunes we recorded.
Well, I'm looking at the list right now. Flower.
Oh, okay. That's a Dezron Douglas tune. That's
Okay.
a Dezron. Yeah, that's one of Dezron's tunes. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Low
He's a great
Bridge,
writer.
which
That's
has
another.
like
That's another Dezron Douglas
it's a
tune.
little 7/4 vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then was the Seneca Blues, was that just like you just blew?
Yeah, it was a blues we were playing, and yeah, we just started. We were like, yeah, let's put this on there,
Yeah.
We definitely, that would be dedicated to the cause, to what was happening.
No, totally. And then they end the set with, and to me it sounds like Seneca Blues kind of morphs into We'll Never Be Forgotten, and then We'll Never Be Forgotten is like a standalone track, which is very haunting melody, beautiful. Whose tune is that one?
That's my tune. It's yes, it's
props, man. Yeah.
Thank you, my brother. It's a actually it's prompts to everyone that that is, all of us have this in our lives. So many people just throughout your life that kind of sets you in a direction, or they see you leaning, they straighten you out. I've had so many people in my life that were so supportive and gave so much for really nothing in return. It's just a dedication to both musicians and just people around me in my life, and that's just a dedication to all of those people, man, all of those people that have been there,
Very cool. Now, was this a trio before the pandemic?
Oh yeah, we had played many. Yeah, sure. Me and
Yeah.
Dezron and Eric. We really it's a branch of a quartet that we had between us three and also the great David Bryant, who is I don't know if you know David. David is
I
phenomenal.
do not know him. Pianist.
Oh man, wait till you yeah, man, you gotta hear David. David,
Okay. All right.
you know what the thing is, he's actually at the moment he's been living in Japan actually. you know he's
Okay.
been in Japan, but he's oh man, David, he's just he did I we were lucky because we got a hold of him when he was really young. David must have been about maybe 2022 or so when I first got introduced to him. I think he was playing with Steve Davis at that time.
Uh-huh.
He was playing with Steve Davis, and then we got I when I heard him, and what I heard was he was playing a ballad, man, and the way he played that, I was like, that's the kind, musical
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
listening. That's the other thing. The first thing we learned about music is about listening. It's not about playing. That was what AT taught me. He's like, music isn't about playing. How you going to know what to play if you're not listening? You dig? If you're not listening to what's going on, you got nothing to add.
All right. Yeah.
So when I heard David, I remember being like, "Whoa, man, this cat's listening. I can hear him listening." And I was like, I want to play with this young man, and we did, and we got together. We played, we played for many, we toured for years, we played maybe at least 10, 15 years or so before he left. And we did another album too called Future, which was more of an independent thing that we did. And his playing on that is off marvelous.
I will look for that. How long's he been in Japan?
He's been there for over a year now. We just talked the other day, man. He called me out of the blue. I was so happy to see him. He's been there for about a year, maybe 2 years already.
All
It
right.
might even be more. Well, wait a minute. If you count the pandemic, because I think he left before the pandemic. See, the pandemic kind of throws everything off.
Yeah.
So maybe he's been there for maybe 3, 4 years already. Wow.
Wow. Well, I'll have to look for for that for that band, for that quartet.
Yeah.
So as things have opened up, what are you doing? What's coming up? Is this group going to be touring, the trio or the quartet? You're going to go over to Japan and hit with David?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely in the works. We're thinking about doing that. There's always things happening. We're really more focused on trying to get another recording out now that we've been playing again. We're more interested in doing that first, getting a recording out and getting some things together. But yeah, we definitely are thinking about going back out on the road. Doing some work on the road. I tend to I put a lot of years out on the road, and it's been fantastic, man. I really always love hitting because, being able to play for people, there's nothing like it. And seeing the world, and meeting people and cultures, I love culture. So cultures are always is so they're inspirational. You get to see things, it's opening, it opens your mind in so many ways. But two, I have a lot of obligations here, because I not only teach at the University of Hartford, I actually teach at Rutgers University as well.
All right.
And they've been amazing, really amazing. And I don't know, I like teaching a lot too. It's weird. It's like a thing where it's like, I love teaching, which kind of makes you have to stay at home, but of course you love playing and touring because it's what you do, so it's like I'm trying to find a balance, trying to
Yeah.
find a balance.
Well, I mean, I think the students and, hopefully your administration is hip enough to know we want someone that is actually out there doing it,
I
that
know
can
what you mean.
pass on real information. So, I think that's cool. Anything specific you have coming up, like any gigs in town you want
Oh
to
yeah, we
talk
do.
about?
We have a hit on, I think at Smalls on the 19th. The 19th of July. Yes,
Okay.
at Smalls. I know we'll be there.
Okay.
And
Cool.
yeah. So if anyone's around, if you're around, definitely come out. It's gonna be hot. I have the great Santi Debriano
Nice.
on bass and Davis Whitfield
Okay.
on
All right.
yeah,
Cool.
Davis and of course Eric McPherson. So that'll be at Smalls. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. On the
Yeah,
19th. Very
man.
cool. All right. Well, Abraham, thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you for the music. All the best. Be safe out there.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Take care.
All right.
Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Van Doren Reeds and Mouthpieces. Be sure and check out the Van Doren Advisory Studio in New York City for all your sound sculpting needs. Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Arlen's Good Beer in Bowling Green, Ohio. Sound by Marco Mendoza. The theme music is No FOMO, Mofo by yours truly. Produced by David Bixler. Be sure and subscribe to Liner Notes wherever you find your podcasts. If you like what you hear, I ask that you consider supporting Liner Notes financially. You can do this by going to the Liner Notes tab at davidbixler.com. Thank you for your consideration.